Eastern Europe art trends. Forget the dusty, gilded frames of Western European museums for a moment. Forget the familiar narratives of Paris, London, and New York. Right now, a powerful, seismic shift is happening in the world of contemporary art, and its epicenter is a region long defined by shadows and whispers, Eastern Europe. This isn't a quiet emergence, it's a full-throated roar, a vibrant, complex, and deeply necessary artistic revolution that is reshaping our understanding of what art can be and what it can do. For decades, the creative output of this vast and varied region was either suppressed by authoritarian regimes or overshadowed by the dominant cultural marketplaces of the West. It was often misunderstood, lumped together under the monolithic, gray label of post-Soviet, but that era is definitively over. From the gritty, reclaimed industrial spaces of Warsaw to the avant-garde galleries of Budapest and the resilient creative hubs of Kyiv, a new generation of artists is forging a visual language that is entirely their own, one born from a unique crucible of history, trauma, rapid transformation, and defiant hope. To truly understand the raw energy crackling through this art scene, we have to look back. We have to grasp the context that makes this work so potent. The defining experience from much of the region was the sudden, jarring collapse of communism in the late 20th century. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 wasn't just a political event, it was a psychological earthquake. It shattered a world of certainties, however oppressive they may have been. For artists, this meant an abrupt liberation from the rigid doctrines of socialist realism, the state-sanctioned style that demanded heroic, optimistic depictions of workers and party leaders. Suddenly, the canvas was blank. The rulebook was torn up. This newfound freedom, however, was a double-edged sword. It was thrown into a chaotic mix of fledgling capitalism, economic shock therapy, political instability, and a profound, society-wide identity crisis. Who were we now that we weren't defined by the Soviet bloc? What parts of our national history, buried for half a century, were real? Where were we headed? These weren't abstract questions, they were urgent, everyday realities. This tumultuous environment became the fertile, if difficult, soil from which the contemporary art scene grew. It fostered a spirit of resourcefulness, a tendency towards conceptual depth, and an unflinching willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Artists had to be more than just decorators. They had to be archaeologists of a buried past, critics of a chaotic present, and prophets of an uncertain future. This unique historical pressure cooker has forged a set of powerful, recurring themes that act as the lifeblood of the region's art. The first and perhaps most pervasive is the theme of memory and the active re-examination of history. This is not nostalgia. It's a forensic, often painful investigation. Artists across Eastern Europe are obsessed with the archive, with forgotten photographs, with the ghosts of ideologies that haunt the architecture and the landscape. They are challenging the grand, monolithic narratives they were taught in school, the official histories written by the victors or the oppressors. Instead, they focus on the small, personal stories, the suppressed events, and the collective traumas that truly shaped their societies. You see this in works that use grainy home videos from the 1970s to explore the gap between private life and public propaganda. You see it in monumental sculptures that are deliberately left to rust and decay, questioning the very idea of permanent memorials. This art asks, what do we choose to remember, and what do we purposefully forget? How does the weight of the 20th century, of wars, occupations, and revolutions, still press down on us today? It's an art of excavation, digging through layers of silence to find a more authentic truth. Flowing directly from this interrogation of the past is the theme of identity in flux. For decades, national and cultural identities were either suppressed in favor of a monolithic Soviet identity or distorted into a tool of state nationalism. The post-communist era threw all of this into question. Artists began exploring the complex, often contradictory, nature of what it means to be Polish, or Hungarian, or Romanian, or Ukrainian in the 21st century. Their work grapples with the tension between a deep-rooted folk heritage and the pull of a globalized, westernized culture. It's about the visual clash between an ancient Orthodox icon and a glowing McDonald's sign, both existing in the same city square. Artists use symbols from their national past, folklore, traditional crafts, historical figures, but they twist them, deconstruct them, and place them in conversation with the language of contemporary global art. This creates a powerful dialogue about belonging. Is identity rooted in the soil, in the language, in shared memory, or is it something more fluid and personal, something we construct for ourselves? This exploration is especially poignant for generations who have no memory of communism but have inherited its legacy, who feel both intensely local and digitally global at the same time. Finally, this is an art scene that is unapologetically engaged with the present. It is steeped in sharp social and political commentary. Having emerged from a system where dissent was dangerous, many artists see it as their responsibility to be watchdogs, critics, and provocateurs. They are on the front lines, creating work that responds in real time to the pressing issues of their societies. This isn't subtle, polite art for a corporate lobby. It's raw, urgent, and direct. It tackles political corruption, the erosion of democratic institutions, the rise of right-wing nationalism, and the ongoing struggle for LGBTQ+ rights and social justice. Performance art becomes a form of public protest. Video installations expose the manipulative language of the media. Sculptures made from the rubble of decaying brutalist buildings become powerful metaphors for societal decay and the possibility of renewal. This art has teeth. It doesn't offer easy answers, but it insists on asking the most difficult questions. It holds a mirror up to society, reflecting its flaws, its anxieties, and its enduring capacity for resilience. These foundational themes, memory, identity, and social commentary, are not just academic concepts. They are the driving forces behind some of the most compelling and original artists working today. But this is more than just theory. Let's look at the incredible individuals who are bringing these ideas to life. Block 2. Rising Eastern European artists moving from the broad currents of history and theme, we now zoom in on the creators themselves, the architects of this new artistic landscape. The sheer volume of talent emerging from the region is staggering, but by focusing on a few key figures, we can see exactly how those powerful ideas of memory, identity, and social critique are being transformed into breathtaking works of art. These are not just Eastern European artists, they are major contemporary artists who are pushing the boundaries of their respective mediums and contributing to a global conversation, all while speaking from a place of profound cultural specificity. Their work is a testament to the fact that the most universal stories are often found in the most personal and local of experiences. Prepare to be introduced to a few of the visionaries currently captivating the international art world. Our first stop is Poland, with the multifaceted and intellectually playful artist Paulina Olawska. Olawska's practice is a brilliant tapestry woven from painting, performance, collage, and installation. She acts as a kind of artistic archaeologist, digging into the visual culture of socialist-era Poland and bringing it into a vibrant, critical dialogue with the present. She is particularly fascinated by the forgotten figures of the past, especially the pioneering female artists of the Polish avant-garde who were sidelined by official histories. In a sense, her work is an act of resurrection, giving voice and visibility to those who were silenced. She often adopts and reinterprets the aesthetics of the 1960s and 70s, the bold graphics, the optimistic yet slightly uncanny designs of posters and magazines from the Polish People's Republic. But she doesn't do this with simple nostalgia. Instead, she infuses these styles with a contemporary feminist perspective, questioning the roles of women, the nature of labor, and the promises of a failed utopia. A fantastic example is her alphabet series, where she created a complete Cyrillic alphabet using the bodies of acrobats, a direct reference to a 1920s constructivist design. It's a work that is at once beautiful, witty, and deeply layered, speaking about the body, language, and political systems all at once. Olawska's art shows us how the past is not a dead thing to be placed in a museum. It's a living archive of ideas, aesthetics, and dreams that can be reactivated and repurposed to help us understand where we are now. Next, we travel to Romania to witness the visceral, turbulent, and unforgettable work of Adrian Gainey, one of the most celebrated painters of his generation. To stand in front of a Gainey canvas is to feel the chaotic weight of history itself. His paintings are not calm, quiet portraits. They are explosive, textured battlegrounds of paint where history, memory, and abstraction collide. Gainey is a master of what he calls the slaughterhouse of images, drawing from a vast archive of historical photographs, film stills, and art history. He is particularly drawn to the dark figures of the 20th century: Hitler, Lenin, Stalin, the Nazi doctor Josef Mengele. Yet he never paints them in a straightforward documentary way. Instead, their faces are smeared, scraped, blurred, and often obliterated by abstract gestures. The paint itself, thick and sculptural, becomes a metaphor for the violence of history and the unreliability of memory. He famously said, "The 20th century was a century of such shame that we can't even look it in the face." His paintings embody that sentiment. They capture the anxiety and fragmentation of a post-totalitarian world struggling to process its own traumatic past. But his work is not just about history, it's intensely personal. He often inserts self-portraits or figures from his own childhood in communist Romania into these historical maelstroms, collapsing the distance between the grand narrative of history and the intimate reality of lived experience. Gainey's work is a powerful reminder that history is not a neat timeline, but a messy, violent, and deeply psychological force that continues to shape our present. Our final spotlight turns to Ukraine and the incredibly resourceful and conceptually sharp artist Zhanna Kadyrova. Kadyrova's work is a powerful commentary on urban space, value, and the legacy of Soviet infrastructure, often created using the very materials of that world: ceramic tiles, asphalt, cement, and brick. She has an extraordinary ability to take these heavy, mundane, industrial materials and transform them into objects of delicate beauty and profound meaning. One of her most famous series is called Second Hand, where she meticulously crafts items of clothing, a coat, a dress, a bra, out of heavy patterned ceramic tiles salvaged from demolished buildings, like old Soviet-era bus stations and swimming pools. The tile clothing is displayed on department store racks, creating a jarring and brilliant commentary on consumerism, the body, and the crumbling architectural skin of the post-Soviet world. The work is witty, but it's also deeply melancholic, a memorial to a disappearing world. In the wake of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, her work has taken on an even greater urgency and power. For her project Polyanyetsa, named after a type of Ukrainian bread whose pronunciation is difficult for Russians, she began creating sculptures that look exactly like loaves of bread but are carved from heavy river stones. These breads are solid, unyielding, and eternal. They have been exhibited and sold internationally to raise funds for the Ukrainian army and refugees. Here, Kadyrova's art becomes a tool of resistance, a symbol of resilience, and a way of transforming the very land of her country into a statement of defiance. Her practice demonstrates how contemporary art can respond with immediacy and incredible grace to the most brutal of realities. So, with talent this explosive and voices this powerful, where is this all heading? And, more importantly, how can you be a part of it? Future art landscape. The work of artists like Olowska, Geni, and Kadyrova isn't happening in a vacuum. It represents the crest of a wave that is now breaking onto the global stage. For years, the international art world operated with a map heavily skewed towards a few Western capitals. But that map is being forcefully and beautifully redrawn. We are at a tipping point where Eastern European art is no longer seen as a regional curiosity or a monolithic post-Soviet category. Instead, the world is beginning to recognize and celebrate the incredible diversity of distinct, sovereign, and innovative national scenes that are flourishing across the region. The conversation is shifting from one of catching up to the West to one where these artists are actively setting the agenda and influencing the very direction of contemporary art. The future landscape is not about assimilation, it's about a powerful, polyphonic dialogue where these new voices are becoming essential. This rising visibility is most evident in the hallowed halls of the international art establishment. Major biennials, the mega exhibitions that serve as bellwethers for the art world, are increasingly showcasing and celebrating artists from Eastern Europe. At events like the Venice Biennale, arguably the world's most prestigious art exhibition, pavilions from countries like Lithuania and Romania have won the top prizes in recent years, stunning audiences with their conceptual rigor and originality. This isn't just tokenism, it's a genuine recognition of excellence. Similarly, major art fairs like Art Basel in Switzerland and Frieze in London, which are the primary marketplaces for high-end contemporary art, now feature a growing number of galleries from Warsaw, Bucharest, and Prague. Collectors and curators are flocking to these booths, eager to discover the raw energy and intellectual depth they offer. Beyond the event circuit, major museums are also taking notice. Institutions like the Tate Modern in London, MoMA in New York, and the Centre Pompidou in Paris are actively acquiring works by Eastern European artists for their permanent collections, ensuring that their contributions become a permanent part of the art historical canon. This institutional embrace is crucial. It signals a fundamental re-evaluation of 20th and 21st century art history, one that finally includes the vital narratives from the other half of Europe. So, where are the physical hubs of this creative explosion? While artists are working everywhere, a few key cities have become crucial nerve centers for the scene. Warsaw has emerged as a particularly dynamic hub. Its art scene is characterized by a gritty, experimental energy with a fantastic network of private galleries, artist-run spaces, and world-class institutions like the Museum of Modern Art in Warsaw. The city's complex history is visible everywhere, and artists expertly use this layered urban environment as both their canvas and their subject. Budapest, with its own grand and complicated imperial history, offers a different flavor. Its scene is a compelling mix of established, state-run institutions and a fiercely independent underground of galleries and studios that often operate in opposition to a challenging political climate, making the art there particularly charged and vital. And then there is Berlin. While not geographically in Eastern Europe, it has become the region's unofficial artistic capital in exile. For decades, it has been a magnet for artists from Poland, Romania, Ukraine, and beyond, offering relative affordability, creative freedom, and, most importantly, a crossroads where different diasporas can meet, collaborate, and gain international exposure. Walking through the gallery districts of Kreuzberg or Mitte in Berlin is to take a crash course in the future of Eastern European art. Of course, the path forward is not without its challenges. In many countries, state funding for the arts is precarious and often subject to political whims. The rise of illiberal governments in some nations can create a climate of censorship or pressure on artists who create critical work. And the economic realities mean that many talented individuals are still drawn westward in a brain drain to established art centers like Berlin, London, or New York. However, these very struggles often fuel the urgency and ingenuity of the art. And a powerful counterforce has emerged, the digital revolution. The rise of social media, particularly Instagram, and the proliferation of online art platforms and magazines have been a game changer. It allows artists to bypass traditional gatekeepers and connect directly with a global audience. A young artist in a small city in Romania can now have their work seen by a curator in Los Angeles with the tap of a screen. This digital connectivity fosters a sense of a borderless community and gives us, the audience, unprecedented access. This brings us to the most exciting part, your role in this unfolding story. You don't have to be a millionaire collector or a globe-trotting curator to engage with this dynamic scene. You can become a discoverer. Start by following the key galleries from Warsaw, Budapest, and Berlin on social media. Seek out online art magazines that focus on contemporary art from the region. When you visit a major museum, look for the names of artists from these countries and spend time with their work. By showing interest, by sharing their work, by being a curious and engaged viewer, you become part of the ecosystem that supports these vital voices. This isn't just about looking at interesting pictures, it's about connecting with some of the most urgent, honest, and historically resonant art being made anywhere in the world today. The story of Eastern European art isn't just being written, it's being painted, sculpted, and projected in real time. The revolution is underway. The only question is, are you watching?